Jana Raja Janaram Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunjabi Hari Chari Jaya Kunjabi Hari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Kunjabi Hari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunjabi Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunjabi Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Ram Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Bhajataranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Bol Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Tango Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Boy, I wish that you were always with me when we really work up some nice duets there. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Therefore, I offer my most humble obeisances unto him. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we'll do remaining time here is make a short, not exactly a lecture, a short little discussion, and then I was told that you would like to, well, I'm assuming that you would like to hear some of my memories of my encounters with Srila Prabhupada. Okay. I already know myself. That's all right, go ahead.
We are very happy to welcome His Holiness Bhakti Prabhupada BPV Damodar Maharaj. And Maharaj met Srila Prabhupada early in 1966. That was when Srila Prabhupada...
June, July 66 in Tompkins Square. Oh, you probably have it all there. Go ahead.
Tompkins Square Park. That's exactly when Prabhupada established ISKCON there. And so Maharaj also wrote the article about Prabhupada in a newspaper that was titled The Master Returns. And then in 1969 he purchased the old used furniture store in Boston.
She's got my number.
Later that became the Boston Temple. It's called in Boston. And so from then on, for so many years now, Maharaj has rendered various services in various temples in Sankirtan and outreach and preaching. So since 2019, he is also initiating disciples. So I don't know how fortunate we are here to get association of such wonderful devotees. So we are very happy to welcome Maharaj here. And also we are very happy to welcome His Grace Mitra Prabhu. Mitra Prabhu is not new to Charlotte congregation, and we know him through his guitar and beautiful kirtan and classes.
And Pran Govinda Prabhu.
Yes, we also want to welcome His Grace Pran Govinda Prabhu, he's from Alachua too, giving wonderful lectures and seminars. And all the other disciples, devotees here who have come with them. And so we'll say 3 times Hari Bol to all of them. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. So we'll try again now. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tajman Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Janadeep, the torchlight. No? Therefore I offer my most humble obeisances unto him. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It takes occasions like this. Well, all right, I'm first supposed to say something a little philosophical, some lecture. It'll be short, you won't fall asleep. So I'm kind of taking things from the Western his history, culture, and combining it with Prabhupada's teachings, which of course is completely sheltered in Vedic wisdom. See, I think here it is. Excuse me. So you've all heard of Socrates, no? Is there anyone here who doesn't know who Socrates was? Everybody knows Socrates. Bueno, let's put it on base it in something from Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, text 7. Karpanya dosho pahatas vabhava vichamispam dharma samudacheta yakshaya sannishtitas bruhid tanme shishasti ham sadimam tvam prapanam. Arjuna has got to that point where, he gave so many arguments, and if we kill the family members, then the women won't be protected, then there'll be unwanted population, and then everything will go to hell, and isn't it? And not only that, but Arjuna says this, we've heard this from disciplic succession. So he's making pretty good arguments, but he was still miserable because, just like in Shakespeare, they say, to be or not to be, that is the question. So Arjuna was saying, to fight or not to fight? That is the question. There's one verse where Arjuna in chapter 2, he says, and I don't even know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's better. Should I actually kill the enemies or be killed by them? In either case, but they're standing right in front of me now. A decision has to be made. So it was a critical moment, like crisis. And so he said, so now I am confused about my duty. I don't know what would be the proper thing to do. So please now you tell me, Yakshaya Samishtitas, Bruhi Tanme, you tell me, because now I'm not going to argue with you anymore, Krishna. Shishaste ham sadimam tvam prapana. Now it's prapana, now I'm surrendered as your shishya. Shishya is the same as disciple. So that, now in the purport to that verse, Prabhupada quotes from, what is it called, Garga Upanishad, something like that? Yava etar gag yavatik dashma lokat prayiti shakripana. He's Kripana. Who can tell me? Not Frank Govinda and Nityasena, but who could tell me who is what is a Kripana? Miser. Yeah. When I asked that question, someone, a creep. He's a real creep. In American slang, we say for the loser, No, but Kripana, so he's a miserly man who doesn't understand the value of life. He doesn't try to solve the problems of life as a human being. I'm kind of hooking this in a little bit with the remembrances of Prabhupada. Prabhupada told me, those from Alachua have heard this, but most of you, all the rest of you have not heard this. In 1966, I was wandering in the street. And I was, from middle-class family. I was, pampered. My mother would give me my supper and eat the TV dinner in front of the TV, watching the Mickey Mouse Club and all these wonderful Popeye, all these wonderful programs that are so exciting. And not too long after that, I found myself wandering in the street. It was November, it was getting cold outside, and I had no money, and I was crazy, and even more than I am now. And I didn't know what to do. There was this funny stuff that's still around, actually. You have to be careful with this. Don't let it come up here to this nice, sedate, sattvic area, because I don't know what people are eating around here and the neighbors, but otherwise it's a nice area. Anyway, to make a long story short, I was bewildered and cold. So I came, as usual, I would go to 26 2nd Avenue. This is 1966. Yes, I was under the influence of the LSD. Prabhupada knew about LSD. LSD is lysergic acid, something that's very, very, it doesn't make you physically like you drink alcohol. It's a physical, nice feeling. It's in the mind. It's in your mind, what you're thinking becomes the reality and for you, and often could lead to tremendous crises. So Prabhupada had to deal with so many hippies on LSD, and when I showed up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I was walking down 2nd Avenue towards Houston Street. And the first temple was located on 26 2nd Avenue. The only thing between that and Houston Street was a Esso gas station. And now it's called Exxon, I guess. So I was up all night, and I won't go into details, but it was like many people were having LSD trips, we call them. Many people, young people, not so young people, there was this character, Timothy Leary. He ended up becoming quite crazy, but he was producing LSD along with, then he became Baba Ram Das before he was Richard Alpert. And they were professors in Harvard University, but they devoted themselves to promoting, producing, and distributing this LSD. So it became quite a popular drug, we can say, to take. And we used to call it a trip. It was an LSD trip. And I took an overdose of that. I remember, I won't go into the detail, but somehow it was a tab on a paper, and I was supposed to take half of it, and I ended up taking about 90% of it. It was a big overdose. And I was emotionally unstable and so many things. So I took that, and it really affected me. Anyway, to make to get back to Srila Prabhupada, that's what I was fortunate enough, despite my craziness, I was able to always find my way to 26 Second Avenue. And in my crazy state, you wouldn't believe what I looked like. I was wearing a fur coat. That was the style, the hippies. There was a place where you can buy fur coats. In New York, it gets quite cold, so all right, so we got a big fur coat. And they were $10 or $20. They were really heavy fur coat. So I was wearing one of those, and it wasn't very sattvic. And I had my, what do you call that, self-adhesive, like a button I stuck on my forehead. That was all different colors, phosphorescent. They sell it in the Psychedelicatessen right by Tompkins Square Park. So I showed up like that with my Shiva's third eye, we called it, and put on my forehead, all different colors. And I showed up at the temple like that with the fur coat and long, long hair and you name it. And Prabhupada had gotten to know me, and I think at least once before that, he experienced my behavior while I was under the influence of LSD. So I guess with your permission, I'm going right into my memories of Prabhupada right now. I wanted to say anything crucial here. Then, anyway, let me just say what I was going to talk about. I'm not going to go through it all, but from the philosophical side. The Oracle of Delphi announced that Socrates was the wisest. Why was he the wisest? Because he knew that he didn't know. Everyone else didn't know what was going on. They really didn't know reality, but they thought they knew. So the Oracle of Delphi announced that you are the most wisest person in all of Athens or whatever. And why is that? Because you know that you don't know. So let's fast forward some centuries, and you get to Sanatana Goswami. Ke ami, ke ne amaya, jadatapatraya. What is it? Iha nahi jani, ke moni hitahaya. He said, why am I always suffering the threefold miseries? Miseries of the mind, miseries of the body, miseries of, what's the third one? Threefold miseries. Yeah, Adi Bodhika, Adi Daivika, Adi Klesha. You know, most of you are familiar with, we're all familiar with miseries, but the Vedic wisdom has it all organized. So, Sanatana Goswami was starting off where Socrates left off. I mean, Socrates was just considered wise because he knew he didn't know. But Sanatana Goswami, not only did he know that he didn't know, but he knew what he didn't know. He knew what he should have known. Not that he knew it, I'm not contradicting. No, he knew the subject matter that he needed to know. And he knew he didn't know it yet. So in that humble state, he approached Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And why am I always being afflicted with these threefold miseries? So miseries of the body, the mind. The third is natural disturbances. We see a lot that in the world today due to so much bad karma. And where is it in the big earthquake in just a few days ago? Huge earthquake in. Yeah. Fortunately, it wasn't right here. And So that would be from natural disturbances. So, so I'm not comparing myself with Sanatana Goswami, but I also came to Srila Prabhupada just practically crying. I mean, I was wandering in the street, I was cold, I had no money, and I was crazy, I mean, you know. And so I came to 26 2nd Avenue once again, and I said, because I was still pretty crazy, and Prabhupada asked me 5 years later, in 71, I had my last darshan with Srila Prabhupada, personal darshan, and I wanted Srila Prabhupada to recall our previous encounters, that, you know, reconnect, you might say, when I had personal discussion. Actually, my father, my material father, he went to speak with Prabhupada in 1966 at 26 2nd Avenue, not looking for how to solve the problems of birth, death, disease, and old age, how to reunite with God. He wasn't looking for that. He just was bewildered because no one, even the psychiatrist, no one could help us in my predicament. So he went to, I always talked about the Swami. We called, the name Prabhupada didn't start till a little later on. So we called Swamiji, or the Swami is how we refer to Srila Prabhupada. So my father went to speak with the Swami because he already had no other place to turn to try to see what can be done with my son. So do you want to hear what Prabhupada told my father? He said to him, I wasn't there, but my father gave me word for word. And I know it was a proper quote because he used an expression that's a Prabhupadism. It's a way of using English language that only Prabhupada would use. So he told my father, there was something wrong with that boy. Now I'll stop there for a moment before I tell you the rest of it, because for years, until about 1985, I thought that was it. And then Krishna gave me the intelligence, and I asked my father, when you spoke with my guru, didn't he say anything more? And my father said, yes. He said, there's something wrong with that boy. You already told me that, Dad. You already told me that. Did he say anything else? And my father, yes, he said something else. What did he say? My father told me, he said, but we can fix him up. And how did I know that that was perfect quote from Prabhupada, authentic? Because that's a Prabhupada term. No one used that. We can fix him up. Who would you speak like that except for Prabhupada? So that was nice to hear that. So anyway, there I was, completely bewildered and wearing my fur coat, of course, even though I still was cold and everything. And I came and we said, Swamiji, you have to excuse me for referring to Prabhupada as Swamiji, because we didn't know the name, we never heard the word Prabhupada in 1966. Swamiji, I'm just like you. I know this sounds a little blasphemous, but I'm just being authentic in my remembrance of what happened. I'm also spreading the word amongst the people. Om, Om, Krishna, Shiva. I'm spreading the word. I'm telling everyone. And I work hard all day long, and nobody gives me any money. Pretty pathetic. It was so pathetic that Srila Prabhupada went, you know, TSK, TSK, TSK. You know, we got a real case here. He didn't say that, but, you know, he was just saying. Of course, Prabhupada had a lot of experience dealing with wild Westerners, especially the hippie days and everything. So then Prabhupada became serious after tisk, tisk, tisk. He became very serious. And he said, remember what Prabhupada told me then? I said many times. He said, simply join us. And what will we do? We will solve all your problems. Because I came to Prabhupada with a problem of not having money. But Prabhupada said, you simply join us, we will solve all your problems. And then he handed me a dhoti. Now this is very, very controversial. I won't go to, I can tell the ISKCON, my ISKCON friends afterwards what went on exactly, but it was controversial because some big famous devotees in the movement, they didn't believe the story that Prabhupada handed me a dhoti. Okay, maybe it wasn't a dhoti, maybe it was just some cloth that he had, maybe even some orange gumsha or something, but he handed me some cloth. It was just to formalize the relationship. When he said, simply join us, we will solve all your problems, it was simultaneous with that statement or that request, he handed me with sort of like a dhoti. And I was supposed to put that on. And then I went way off on the mental platform. I said, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to undress myself and now put on this cloth. It's like a skirt. I never wore a skirt. Of course, many times I wore skirts in previous lifetimes. That's another thing. But in this lifetime, I never experienced. And I started walking backwards towards the door. This is in Prabhupada's apartment, behind 26 Second Avenue. And Prabhupada followed me, and he had his hand on the frame of the door, and I'm making my exit, and he said, we had a tear coming down his eye, and he said, please come back. I can't even begin to imitate, but it was very emotional. And I was so rascal that, of course, I did come back, but I didn't come back just at that moment. And it was nighttime, and at that time, with the 26 Second Avenue First Temple was a bad neighborhood. It wasn't now anything in Manhattan is gold, practically speaking. I don't know, if you go to Avenue C, maybe it's still a little cheaper there, but in those days, you can get an apartment on near Avenue C, and lower, like in 9th Street. I had an apartment in 9th between B and C, so A and B, but then you go B and C further towards the East River, and really very, very cheap. So anyway, that's what Prabhupada told me. He said, simply join us, we can solve all your problems. And he handed me this cloth. So the point I'm mentioning about the neighborhood is because it was dangerous at that time. It wasn't like now. So it was nighttime, it was dark, and I rejected Prabhupada's request that I don't leave, that I, just join. And then Krishna immediately gave me chastisement, because when it was a bad neighborhood then, and it was nighttime, and when I went out there, this gang of hoodlums came, and I even saw one of them had a big knife, was coming at me, and then his buddy kindly pushed me away so I didn't get killed. And so that was like a chastisement for causing pain to the pure devotee by not accepting he was like a plea that I should join. So, but of course after that I would come back and one other remembrance of Prabhupada in 26 Second Avenue was one time I was sleeping in the temple room during very early in the morning, the devotees were starting to chant their japa, and I was like horizontal. I was trying to sleep, and the devotees were vertical. They were walking around chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. And then I couldn't sleep, and I was trying to get up, and I was going to run out. And the devotees told me, in kind of hippie language, they said, "Hey man, you really got to speak to the Swami." I mean, you could see I really needed help, and the Swami could provide that help. So I didn't leave. And that particular time I went up and I couldn't get in. Usually the door was always open. You could just walk right in. You don't even have to knock. But I had many opportunities, and I did go up. I did have various encounters with Srila Prabhupada. Even my father, as I mentioned, he went and spoke with Prabhupada. So I was very fortunate like that. So that time I was trying to sleep in the temple, then devotees told me, "You really got to speak with the Swami." Okay. So after the Guru Puja, then I went up, and somehow I couldn't speak to him. The door was usually, I think there was even a little sign that said, no need to knock, just come right in. Prabhupada was ready for anybody to share, to bestow his mercy on the Krishna consciousness. But in various other occasions, I did have the opportunity. Was very pleasing to Prabhupada was not that I went completely crazy. I'm not saying that was pleasing, but the result was pleasing because the police had to take me away. I was too crazy. The police came, and it's a long story, but they didn't want me to make another public exhibition of my craziness, yelling, Om, Krishna, this, that, That's why I was telling Prabhupada how I was also, quote, preaching, unquote. And tried it again. The police came and he said, "No, we caught your act yesterday. You're not doing that again." And I wasn't cooperating with the police, so they put handcuffs on me. I fainted, and it was a whole episode. I ended up in a couple of other places, and then they finally put me in the Bellevue. In those days, till fairly recently, it was a mental institution in the Lower East Side, and that was quite an adventure, especially when you're on an LSD trip and you go to Bellevue, all the different floors. So then one nice thing that was that when I was in Bellevue, the barber, somebody insisted, the guy being, anyway, I don't want to get too much of this personal and waste your time with that, but we were lined up to get haircuts, and a lot of hair was cut, all these hippie crazies, and I didn't want to lose my beautiful long hair and everything, but then before I knew what was happening, I was like this, basically. Very little hair left, and I didn't have a sikha, but very little hair. And then when I finally got out of, altogether about 10 days to Bellevue and another place, and then as soon as I was free, of course I went to see Prabhupada, because I would do that automatically. I would always walk around the Lower East Side, but I'd always end up going to 26 Second Avenue. Not only for the prasad, but for it's all prasad in other forms, not only food. And Prabhupada was with a few devotees, and when I walked into his apartment, he smiled like ear to ear. It was a big smile. And he said, "Oh, now you look very nice." So in Bellevue, the barber had a lot of akyata sukriti because he really pleased the pure devotee by cutting off my long hairs and everything. And So the relationship went on. And then in 71, I'll just end with this encounter with Prabhupada. This was 5 years later, right? 66, 71. The devotee, now Prabhupada was Prabhupada. He was always Prabhupada, but he was known as Prabhupada. It wasn't exactly, we say in America, it wasn't a piece of cake. It wasn't such an easy thing to get to have darshan with Srila Prabhupada. You had to be a big devotee or a famous person in the material world. Did you ever have direct darshan with Prabhupada? It wasn't easy. I'm sure you would have liked to. But because I had so many encounters with Prabhupada, even my father and everything in 66, and I would share these anecdotes with the devotees, and they were true. The devotees arranged for me to have a personal darshan when now ISKCON was worldwide and Prabhupada was world famous and was going to become more so. But since by 71 it was already a big thing. So they introduced me to, or reintroduced me to Srila Prabhupada, and they said, "This is Bhaktalan." Did I mention how Prabhupada called me by my first name? Did I say that? No. Just on this subject. When I showed up, I tell the story so many times, I thought I didn't mention it this evening. Okay, so I showed up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and Bhagavatam class was there. And when Prabhupada saw me, he challenged me. He said, "Lon, did you take LSD?" Just like that. And I said, "No, Swamiji." And woo. I didn't take it that evening or that during that night, but I had taken it maybe the day or two before, so I was still, as we used to say, tripping. So Prabhupada was looking at me. He stopped the Bhagavatam class and he was just staring at me to see what I was going to do. You see how Prabhupada was so balanced, you might say. On the one hand, he had to maintain order. He didn't want the Bhagavatam class to go to hell because some lunatic comes in and it spoils the class. On the other hand, he didn't want this lunatic to go to hell by being rejected and not being able to come and join the group. So he just watched me. And slowly I advanced towards Prabhupada. I remember it looked like, because I was on LSD, so I thought the floor was moving, so I was walking in a funny way. And then I came in for a landing right at Prabhupada's lotus feet, and by Krishna's mercy, Paramatma, somehow I didn't cause any disturbance. I just sat there quietly and heard the Bhagavatam class. So that was nice. So in 71, when I had the last personal darshan with Prabhupada, the devotees, they introduced me the wrong way. They said that this is Bhaktalan. He used to speak with you a lot at 61 Second Avenue. And that throws the whole thing off. I never was at 61 Second Avenue. That was the second temple. I was at 26 Second Avenue. I never went in at 61. I was somewhere else. So I tried to clarify it. So to make it, to help Srila Prabhupada remember me, I said, Srila Prabhupada, as I'm talking, we're sitting down for the darshan. I said, Srila Prabhupada, in 1966, when I used to speak with you, I was very crazy. Now that wasn't that intelligent way of helping Prabhupada because everyone was quite crazy in those days. LSD and this and that, Of course you had people like Stephen Guarino who became Satsvarup Maharaj. He wasn't crazy, he was very intellectual, a writer and everything. Very well read. But many were like me, they just spaced out, hippie. So I told Prabhupada that I used to be very crazy. And then Prabhupada opened his eyes and stared like we were like this far apart. He's looking right in my eyes, you know. He's staring in my eyes. Said, "Oh, are you still crazy?" I always mention that the way he said it was just to make a crazy person even crazier. And I said, "No, I'm not crazy anymore." I said, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I told him about my business and this and that. And he said, it's okay, like, 'cause in so many words he was saying, calm down, it's all right, I'm not accusing you of being crazy anymore, although I was still acting crazy. And he said, stay with your, well, more or less wife, and stay with your business, and stay in your apartment. He said, I only ask one thing of you. Some of you have heard his answer. Simply try to understand Krishna. Now, just to be honest, I'll mention that he did say one thing after that. Anyway, when he said that, I offered obeisances. This is in North Beacon Street in Boston, Massachusetts. And there was a Tulsi area behind. I had the darshan with Prabhupada. I offered obeisances. I learned how to do that at least. And I was going through the Tulsi area, and just as I was about to leave, Prabhupada said one more thing. He said, and we are not asking for any money. Now, it took me a while to figure that out. I had different ways of speculating what he meant. But in a simple way, there are more, innovative ways of interpreting that statement. But in the most simple interpretation is that is the way an aristocratic Vaishnava gentleman asks for donations. I mean, put two and two together. I just got finished telling you how I have 2 trucks and I have a store, a big furniture store, because it was old furniture, but it was 5,000 square feet, which is not small. And, Zeke's old-time furniture. It was named after a monkey. That's another story. So, so he was engaging me. And he could have said, now you have your business and everything, and, you're coming to me. You should help this movement. You should make donations. He didn't say it like that. He said it in a much more intelligent way, much more sophisticated way. And we are not asking for any money. So I'm very thankful to the Lord in my heart and to Prabhupada that that's one instruction I didn't follow at all. In other words, that he's not asking for any money. Oh, I wanted to give donations. He's not asking money. I won't give any. I wasn't that foolish. And I'm not saying I gave like many thousands of dollars, but I was steady in my donations. And when I sold my furniture store, then I was able to give a substantial donation for the substantial, relatively speaking, but it wasn't $1 million, but it was pretty substantial. Jar, all glorious to Sikhs. So that was nice. Rupanuga was the temporary GBC for Boston at that time. No, I won't go into that detail, but I gave a substantial donation to the temple. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask me about my experiences with Prabhupada or something about Socrates or something? Yes, Mataji, thank you.
So what was your journey like with Prabhupada when you were recovering from that LSD haze you were in and getting to a more sattvic state?
So, what was the question? What was my
What was your journey like?
journey in life? I see. What was my journey? Yeah, well, it was 9 years. I'm not saying like Prabhupada, but it was similar coincidence that Prabhupada, it was 9 or 10 years when he first met his Guru Maharaj, and then he actually joined, really joined. So in my case, it was 9 years. Again, I'm not trying to compare myself with Prabhupada. But in fact, my name used to be Prabhupada Das. The temple president in Boston had some influence on naming, or what names the new devotees should get. This is still Prabhupada present, but he couldn't go through all the names himself. There were so many hundreds of disciples being initiated. So the temple president was very kind to arrange that my name should be Prabhupada Das. And now as a sannyas, it's Bhakti Prabhupada Vrat Damodar Swami. But the Prabhupada Das was my name for many years, a brahmachari name. So the question was, basically I think she's asking like what happened during those 9 years. So I had to work out my karma, as we say, and I regret that I didn't surrender and join then. If I would have joined at that time, besides being very famous amongst the devotees, being one of the original devotees at 26 2nd Avenue, more importantly, I would have had so much personal association with Prabhupada. But I see it as Krishna's arrangement because I was not stable, so I could have done any crazy thing and made big offense. So Krishna arranged, protected Prabhupada against me and protected me against offending Prabhupada. So then 9 years later I joined. During that time I 66, I lived in the woods for a while. But I was chanting. I never stopped chanting. In 1966, I started chanting. It's interesting. How many of you have heard of the name Allen Ginsberg? About 30%, 20% have heard. He was a very famous poet. He died a world-class, world-famous poet. And I knew him. He was very hospitable. You can go in his place. He'd always give you to eat, and even one time he gave me a place to take rest. And he even wrote a postcard to me one time to help me launch a alternative hippie newspaper, and I was the editor of. So anyway, I'm trying to get back to your question now. In those 9 years, so I started this newspaper, and we had a full-page article. I showed it to. Did I ever show you, Pran Govinda, the article about Prabhupada in my newspaper? You're always so busy, moving so fast. But next time you drop me off at the ashram, just give me 2 minutes, I'll show it to you. So I have it. I sent the newspaper to Bhaktivedanta Archives, and they charged me $60. And it was well worth it because what they did was they put special chemically treated plastic over the pages, and then in other words, that newspaper will be around for people to read long after I'm not around in this body. Thanks to the Bhaktivedanta Archives. It's a good investment on my part. And so I had an article about Prabhupada in the newspaper. That's one of the things I was doing, at least it was related to Krishna. And okay, well, then I lived in the woods, and anyway, I kept chanting. The main thing was I didn't stop chanting. I was chanting japa. And a lot of times devotees, when they don't know so much about ISKCON, or they don't know so much about the standard, they think this happened. It happened to me. We used to think that around means a round trip. Like you go, you chant 108 beads, and then you chant 108 beads going back, and that would be one round. And I was thinking, whoa, I don't know how those devotees have time to do this, because, I mean, maybe some of you chant more than 32 rounds a day, but for a while I was chanting 32 because I thought that you're supposed to go both ways, and that would be one round. So 16 and 16 is 32. Well, you know, it doesn't hurt. It's just I found myself chanting a lot. And devotees would try to help me, and sometimes they came to my apartment and they cooked prasadam. I remember the sink had this green stain from the turmeric, and that stain never went away. It's a good thing that they didn't charge me for it when I left the apartment. So, but the more important thing was I was increasing when my business by Krishna's made arrangement that I got 5,000 square feet for 10 cents a square foot. So do the math, it comes to $500. Now even in those days, $500 was not a lot of money for a big place. And when you're selling furniture, that's the name of the game, space. So anyway, sounds like Maya, but actually it really helped me a lot to become a steady donor to the temple, and then they moved to 72 Commonwealth Avenue. And that's when I moved in the temple in 75. I finally moved in the temple. The temple leader, his name was Adi Keshava. He looked at me and he said, "Oh, you're living here now. You joined the temple. I thought you're only good for donations." It was pretty candid, you might say. Oh, here I am, you know. So, of course, when I moved in, I was able to make a more substantial donation. Anyone have any other question? I think, like me. Yes, Mataji.
Can you say something about your initiation, Maharaj?
Something about?
Your first initiation and second initiation.
Oh, initiation. The first initiation, I didn't mention this yet. It was very sweet because just let me know if unless I said this somewhere else, I thought I said it to you, that they were giving the beads, and the Prabhupada wasn't there personally. He was the temple president on behalf of Tamal Krishna Goswami, was there personally, very important devotee, passed away not too long ago. And they would do in alphabetical order. Now, the day before, on Sankirtan, I could only distribute a few books. It was in Northampton, Massachusetts. And it was not a good place for book. The people were not friendly. So I can only collect $25 the whole day. And the next day was initiation. So I told Srinath Prabhu, a very senior devotee, who was kind of coordinating and leading us, and I said, "Srinath Prabhu, I'm not going to get initiated tomorrow. I only collected $25. It was a pretty silly way of thinking. And he looked at me and he said, "Prabhu, take the mercy. Take the mercy." All right, I'll take the mercy. So then the next day I got initiated. So they were going alphabetical order by the devotees' so-called karmi names, you know, and by their first name. And my name started with L, and Prabhupada knew me by that name, Lon. And they went right by the L's. So I said, I knew it. I told Srinath I knew I wasn't going to get initiated, because I only collected 25 and I had a weird idea, or I just maybe didn't feel qualified. And so he went through the devotees, maybe about 10 devotees getting initiated, and they passed the L. But after that, then he made a speech, and he said, I don't want to sound like I'm puffed up by telling you this, but he said, and now there's one more devotee, Bhaktalan. He's a very special devotee. He used to talk with Prabhupada in 1966, and he gave up everything, his business, his this, his that, and gave everything, joined the temple and surrendered. And then his name will be Prabhupada Das. And that was that's why I didn't get my name called alphabetically, because he wanted to make a little speech about that. That was sweet of him. It was nice of him to do that. He was a pretty wild guy, but he was quite intelligent in a lot of ways. Did you remember the story Aja? Ever hear that name? No. Yeah, he was very big on book distribution, and he was pretty wild, but very dynamic and very influential. Then some things happened. So, all right, so anyway, I don't want to take up more of your time. I think there'll probably be some distribution of prasadam. So I appreciate your patience. I hope that you feel your time was not wasted and maybe even well spent, I hope. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai, ISKCON, what's this place called? Charlotte, ISKCON Charlotte ki jai, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Oh, okay.
You were going through this transition, right, for 9 years, right? So was there no resistance from your family because you were changing your food habits, your lifestyle? So how you handled that situation? Because it was a big transition, right? LSD too.
Yeah, well, during those 9 years, I was still very sinful, and let's see, in 1969, I took LSD again, and so many things. But I also developed that business. It was a relatively small business, but it was capable of steady donations for the temple. And but in terms of internally, you might say, like what was happening to me.
But your family must be, or your wife or your kids, right? But there must be some resistance, right? Why you are going in that direction?
Yeah, well, I'll say something about, especially my father. There's a funny incident took place, but basically, I was undergoing a transformation, and that even showed in the business. When I started the business, it was purely materialism all the way. I had worked so many jobs for $1.25 an hour, $1.50 an hour, and even in those days it was the minimum salary. And it was all nonsense. It was all brainless type of work, and I wanted to have my own business, be my own boss. So I ran into $2,700, and with that I was able to buy this. And it turned out that the place I went to buy the business was the Hare Krishna temple. Many coincidences. That'd be a whole other presentation of these amazing coincidences. But this was an amazing coincidence. That temple that Satsvarup Maharaj started a little earlier, and 95 Glenville Avenue. And when I went there, it was a junk store. Junk store means second-hand furniture, and we call it bric-a-brac, all these different paraphernalias when you buy out people's apartments and houses. It wasn't very large. It had a basement. In the basement, a monkey was living in the basement in a cage. Unless sometimes he'd escape from the cage, and that would be chaotic. But his name was Mr. Zeeks, so we named the business after him. Anyway, this is all nonsense. But Satsvarup Maharaj would come sometimes, and he would even buy furniture from the store, and he remembered. And you had a monkey in the basement. Yeah, we sure did. And then we moved to Kamala. Then we got that big Krishna-made arrangement that I got, that 5,000 square feet. And then, I didn't become wealthy or anything, but I had 5 employees. And sometimes devotees, if they would leave the temple, they let them stay in the store and gave them a little work to do. And anyway, I was what we call dovetailing. Joshayat sarva karmani vidman yukta samachara. Relating my activity with the devotees in the temple as much as possible. I remember this Mataji I'm going to see probably tomorrow, I think, very soon, because I'm only here in this area for a few days. Mother, Shivananda and Madan Mohan Mohini. So Madan Mohan Mohini was pregnant with Shamakund back in that that was how many years? Many years ago, 25. That was 75, and it was 50 years ago. Woo! Amazing! I can't believe I'm still alive in this body. So Shivananda brought his wife, Madan Mohan Mohini, into my store, Krishna's store. And he told me that his wife needs to have a rocking chair because she's pregnant. And when she gets a rocking chair, it makes it more comfortable for her. And then the ladies may be able to relate to that. So I said, you pick out any rocking chair you want, whatever one you want, you can take. So they found the best chair, and she sat down in it, and it was comfortable. And that was an example of how I was dovetailing the business with Krishna consciousness. I would help sometimes devotees that couldn't live in the temple for whatever reason, and I tried to help them. Once there was one devotee, Pavana, he's still active in New Vrindavan. His name was Pavana Prabhu. He was in that category. So, you go from just a karmi business to a dovetailed business, and finally give the whole business to them. So I was, it's called progress. I was progressing. I guess you can say advancing, although I was still a, karmi type of person, but, and then, regulative principles, you start to catch the idea that you should, follow them. And then there I was in 75. I was in the temple. There's a lot of other detail, but that's basically the history of those 9 years. Thank you for the interest, the question.
You were saying about your father, Maharaj. You wanted to say something about your father after you took initiation?
Yeah, I was telling the devotees and doing the traveling here today, and I visited my father in 85. I'm sorry, this is a repeat for you, but I visited him in 1985 with Abhayananda, a very nice devotee who stays in Alachua, who I knew for many, many years, and then some other devotee. And as soon as he walked into my father's apartment, this is in 1985, he became very proud, and he said, I spoke to the old man. I spoke to Bhaktivedanta before any of you. And I was amazed because, my father's becoming really favorable to Krishna consciousness if he's glorifying Prabhupada. He's like, except, and he said, Dad, I said, you're never interested in so much religious stuff and what to speak of, Hare Krishna and all that. Why are you so excited about it? What do you mean? He's a great man. I'm imitating my father's voice. may he rest in peace. He started Hare Krishna all over the whole world. And I was one of the first. I spoke to him before any of you, not before me, but before any of the other devotees. I had him try. So my father ended up glorifying Srila Prabhupada. It took a long time. He was even blasphemous when he saw how, at one point, just real quick, he said, "I'm your father." He's telling me, "I'm your father," when I was getting really more serious about becoming a devotee. And he said, "Dad, please try to understand, I have two fathers. You are my father, you're my material father, but I also have a spiritual father," as you call him, Bhaktivedanta. And amazingly, my father didn't resent that. He said, "Yeah, all right, I can understand that." That was very noble of him, because he was not... Of course, he had the mercy, because before that, in 1966, he was there with Prabhupada in Prabhupada's apartment, speaking personally, not inquiring about what is Brahman, what is Krishna, what is Indian culture. He wasn't anything like. He was just saying, "What to do with my son? He's gone crazy, and LSD, and the psychiatrist can't even help." And I mean, I wasn't there, but that's the way it was going on. And Prabhupada said, "There's something wrong with that boy, but we can fix him up." So, all right, I don't want to take any more of your valuable time. Again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Hare Bol.
Damodar Swami Maharaj ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj, for making our time valuable. You actually took us to 1966 in front of Prabhupada. Thank you so much.
Are you saying you're appreciating that I shared those memories from 1966?
Really.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I did.
About that in Leela Mata, maybe a little bit, but hearing from you is so valuable, because it's like a first-hand account. We are hearing from a person who has met with Srila Prabhupada and had this.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure to try to glorify Prabhupada by giving a first-hand, not just eyewitness, but oral witness also of his mercy and how he would deal with even the craziest hippies. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
The host wants to have 10 minutes of kirtan. Mataji, 10 minutes. Prabhuji, would you like to take?
What?
Okay, we've been sitting for a while. Let's stand up.
Hey, Mitra Singh, do me a little favor. Just come here. Just 2 steps in this. Oh, you already got one. All right. You want me to play a cartoon?
Yeah, let me introduce the cartels. Hare Krishna. So we're going to do something a little different. This is going to be a reenactment of the style of kirtans that were going on during Srila Prabhupada's time. These kartals here, everyone take a look. These kartals were shipped from India in 1970. Gaurasundar, who was with Govinda Dasi at the time, they traveled with Prabhupada. He went to Hawaii. He gave these to a devotee named Tarun Kanti, who lives in Alachua, in 1972. And I was appreciating Tarun's kartals. He has another pair of very old kartals. And I appreciated him so much, he said, I want to give you these. So he just gave me these a couple weeks ago. And so these were played in Prabhupada's presence. Maybe even Prabhupada played them, we don't know. But here we go. You want to listen? This is the way the kartals were played back then. So, and you hear Prabhupada sometimes just singing a bhajan with kartals, like this. And then, so we are going to have Maharaj play those, and I'm going to play that mridanga. Yeah, sure. And Prabhupada taught everyone how to play mridanga. There's a recording. You can look it up online. Prabhupada mridanga class. And back then, that was the only beat anyone knew. And so you can listen to it. And we've been doing this on Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja appearance day. There's like 500 devotees packed in the temple room. And I got to lead the kirtan. And we had the kartals playing like this, and we just kept it to the Prabhupada beat. And all of the older devotees immediately understood what was going on. They appreciated it. How many of you have listened to recordings of Prabhupada leading a kirtan? Just a couple? You got to listen more. Look it up. And there are some, and you'll hear these beats. You'll hear the way he's playing. Okay, go ahead and start the kartals. And then here's the beat. And Prabhupada, he would just play this and variations on it. So here we go. And just try to think of Prabhupada singing. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Keep it simple. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. What's your name?
I'm Saket. Saket. S-A-K-E-T. Yeah. I think we did maybe. Maybe, I don't know.
Can you show the difference?
Yeah, I live in Sharm.
Can you show the difference how this is? These are big, those are small, these are old.